taking the novel out of new psychoactive substances. I want to set a framework. Learning from our perspective is education that transforms. 3 factors included are awareness, information, whilst a starting point for contemplation, giving facts in a vacuum has little traction for behaviour change. To move, to educate. Finally, and most importantly, change, learning. This is where knowledge is applied in a sustained direction with purpose, under tutelage for a specific outcome. This helps create new behaviours. It is important to understand that teaching and learning mechanisms and modes have many elements, and both cognitive but more specifically affective domain education pedagogies are enhanced by both evidence-based practice as well as practice-based evidence. This is no more evident than in Indigenous cultural settings and of a growing importance in subcultural tribal settings as well. Efficacious pedagogies in the affective domain education arena include imperatives such as the contextual sharing of relevant earned resiliency and lived experience with the learning audience, as the following Indigenous diagram reflects. One with lived experience is seen by the client student as an authentic knowledge holder. You can see the bridge of the gap and the difficulty in engagement. You can see here where lived experience works to add to knowledge effectively. So secondly, awareness. So where do the NPSs fit? They have their own subset within the drug wheel sector. We're aware of that and what they do to the system. A couple of studies and research coming out of Australia and in America. New psychoactive substances are increasingly found at music festivals, with users attracted to the novel effects or experiences that these drugs provide. That's South Australian University. University of Louisville also reflected a similar thing. Young people are the most frequent users owing to its recreational effects, its easy accessibility, lower cost, and difficulty in being detected. So moving for education is really important. So dealing with some of these factors, challenging the novel, changing cultural contagion. Who or what is driving the demand? So what are the enticements? Obviously, we've heard fiscal, cheaper and easier option than the more expensive so-called natural drugs. Relative legality, or they were initially, they were called legal highs, but also high promotion. Of course, the psychonaut broadcasting problem is a real issue, which we speak to at length in their fuller presentation. Relentless pain. These issues aren't often talked about, but these are trauma, distress, and psychosocial dysfunction, and the attempts at self-medication. Relational poverty, loneliness, lack of helpful and more mature non-drug using role models, and or social isolation induce self-medication and or distraction mechanisms. I'm bored, I need to be distracted. Also, relationship substitute, we talk about it later on. Further enticements, residing absurdity. This is a big one, often not talked about. Meaninglessness and purposelessness are a key driver in this space. Recalcitrant hedonism. This is arguably, from what we've seen already from the research, the most significant driver for Gen now. Now, a full diagnosis is needed, people. We just can't brush through this and give easy answers. Meaninglessness, said Chesterton, does not come from being weary of pain. Meaninglessness comes from being weary of pleasure. There's a clue there. So what are some of the protective factors? Covey's 7 Habits for Highly Effective People said this: in between stimulus and response is the greatest power you have, the power to choose. So enhancing the ability of agency to choose well is a key issue here. How do we focus on empowerment? Enable us for healthier, safer, and more satisfying choices. Okay, focusing on the health harms, the hypo-idiosyncratic nature of NPSs and both short and long-term harms to user and their environments must be effectively harnessed to add to the demand, reducing shared logos, ethos, and pathos around these realities is important. Pharmacovigilance enhancement, obviously in the sector we need to work on this from a monitoring space as well. Security, obviously safer and healthier living environments, very key issue. These are more meta issues that need to be addressed. That secure people usually don't engage in drug use. Work to shut down the psychonaut activity, which we talk about length in the fuller presentation. Positive relationships, counselling and mentoring, including safe, accountable, supportive, and healthy connections with people of lived experience and earned resiliency, for example, within the recovery alumni, can help a new tribe, a new context. Purpose, healthy and productive growth developing activities, including meaningful employment, study with outcome, cause engagement, etc. Of course, meaning, psyche anchor points beyond the transient and often unpredictable psychosocial environments, and even purpose. Hope is a really important issue here, not only the positive expectation of good, but the reasonable grounds for it. Finally, change. Anthropologists tell us that boredom has got nothing to do with a lack of entertainment, everything to do with a lack of meaning. Key elements that Bainbridge and Stark, 2 of the world's leading sociologists, came up with, 4 factors that are really helpful for resiliency are good families, good education, we just talked about, good community, and meaning. Empowering environments, Planet Youth, you've heard of them, brilliant. community and family models in place. Sporting communities are incredibly effective at doing this, but they have their own issues and liabilities. Communities of faith cover all those bases incredibly well, worth exploring. And of course, recovery and restorative communities. The lived experience and resilience of recovery alumni in structured, purpose-focused and productive settings authentically changes and enhances enticement issues, also adding value to relationships.